You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Another episode of Booth Review presented by Emprise Bank. When was the last time you went into a bank? Now more than ever, who you're doing business with is more important than where they're located. Emprise is a trusted company with mobile tools that take your banking beyond the borders of whatever city you live in. I'm going beyond the borders of Johnson County to hit up Brandon McAnderson, BMAC, back on Booth Review. BMAC, dude, thanks again for coming back on. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I'm always glad to be on here.
Dude, there's not very many people I'd rather talk KU football with, and I loved getting to talk to you last time. Especially look, I got to watch your career back in the day a little bit. You got to play, I believe you played in 2 bowl games, right?
Yes,
you got into 2 bowl games. So, I'm just kind of curious, what was the bowl experience like for you? And when I say bowl experience, I mean regular season's over. You got a month build up. What was that whole process like for you back in college?
So let's start at the beginning. My freshman year, when I redshirted, we went to the Tangerine Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I didn't play in that bowl game, but I got to go. And it was similar to this. It was a celebratory moment. Our quarterback, Bill Whittemore, got hurt when we were 5-2. And we were hanging on by a thread, and he came back and we won, and we got bowl eligible. Everybody had pre-picked us to the Tangerine Bowl if we won. So everybody was throwing tangerines on the field. And I remember Rodney Fowler, a safety from California, was eating it through the peel. I mean, it was just bliss. So we ended up going to Orlando, and it was just party central, man. We were so happy to be there. We didn't even care. They told us, the police came and said, hey, you just go to the Disney specific places, the boardwalk. We have buses that'll take you there. Don't go to downtown Orlando. So, of course, as college kids, we call 1 billion taxis to take us to downtown Orlando. Now, you get out of these hotel things at like 8:30. Your team meetings, your meal, you're done at like 8. And the first 2 days, the curfew's 2 a.m. Like you were at home. We hit these taxis up. We get to downtown Orlando. It's probably 7:30 p.m. Every bar was free drinks till 10. So, needless to say, guys are getting hammered. A couple guys throwing up at practice the next day. And all the while, we were about to play NC State, who had about 9 NFL first rounders on their team. They had lost 3 overtime games. They were a 6-6 team that probably should have been an 8-4 or 9-3 team. And they beat
a decent quarterback too, I think, if I remember.
Quarterback, old Phil Rivers was doing whatever he wanted. Eventual first-round pick Mario Williams of the Texans. Manny Lawson, the other defensive end, he was a first-round pick. Jericho Cotchery. I mean, they were completely loaded, and they unloaded on us, and we didn't have much of a chance. But they ended up blowing us out, and I think that kind of set the tone for the next bowl game. We got to go to Fort Worth. And, obviously a lot less trip. It ain't Orlando. We went out and had a good time or whatever. But the focus there was definitely on execution and winning. It wasn't good enough to just go to a bowl game. We had to get out there and get it done. The bowl practices were really sharp. Young guys were getting opportunities, guys like myself. I was in my second year of playing, so I got more opportunities to run the football, different thing, doing blitz pickup, getting a chance to experiment with some of that third down back stuff that I ended up doing later in my career. So it was a good opportunity for young players to kind of step in, like, what's it going to look like next year? So it's almost like a little preview of when these guys are out of the picture, who's going to be the guy to step up that you can rely on. So it's a good opportunity for your peers to see what you got, for your returning players to see what you got. So that was cool. And then we went out and beat them up pretty good in that game. Orange Bowl, whole different story. We felt slighted. People thought we didn't deserve to be in the game. We wanted to finish the season because it felt important to us, because we heard all year Kansas didn't play anybody, and who could they beat? And I remember Pat Ford said this game should be played on Comedy Central because it's a joke. And all those things we just pumped into our veins. We were really focused, and we came out and beat a really good team with probably just as many pros as NC State had earlier in my career. And boy, we had a really good time there. I'll have to tell you about that one off the air. Because I think the cool thing was the balance, right? You go to the Tangerine Bowl, you get beat up. Maybe we went a little bit too hard. You go to Fort Worth and you're bored and you just want to win. You go to Orlando, you go to Miami, Florida, and you got a party, but you got to be responsible.
Yeah.
We found a good balance and went out there and performed well. But that was another example of what's coming behind us. What kind of players are stepping in? What kind of young players can we rely on in the secondary or at the defensive line? And it's cool for us to see it. It's cool for them to have the responsibility, because that's how it is. When you're a 2 or a 3 in practice during the regular season, you're not getting significant reps running your stuff. You're not getting significant instruction running your stuff. And the responsibility is not on you. You just got to show up, do your job, take your reps, get out. When you're the young guy and the 1s and 2s reps are split 8-2, and now you're the guy getting the 8, it's important because now, there's nobody coming in for you if you don't pick the splits up. We got to see what you can do. So it's a good evaluation period for the coaching staff. A good way to prove yourself to the veterans and some of your returning peers. I always really enjoy bowl practices.
Yeah, and I'm so fascinated to see. We probably won't hear a ton leading up to the game, and maybe at all during the game. We'll see. But just you talked about it. Like, there's opportunities for some young guys to get some looks, and that can be like, I think we talked after the Oklahoma State game. So we talked about the value of this opportunity. But these guys are just in the middle of that, right? Like, that first week, it sounds like veterans kind of got some time off, let these guys heal up. It's been a long season, right? And so you're getting to evaluate some of these young kids. And like, I'm just like, I'm so excited. Like, I know the bowl game will be cool, but I'm just so thrilled that this program, with everything that they've done in such a short amount of time, gets rewarded with an opportunity to develop these kids, to develop this, not just, the kids that are on their way out, but just, the kids that are they're coming up behind them. And I think this is like a springboard opportunity for this program, getting this extra month here to get this working.
Yeah. And it's going to be quality work. It's not scout team work. It's good on good. You're going against the other team's best. Maybe it's not all the starters, but the other team's best, the other side of the football's best. That's a good part. It's a good part to have full speed practices when you're hosting recruits. December is a big time to host recruits. It helps when you're practicing, when they can come out and watch you practice and then hang out with the players, after practice. That's important. It's important to get to see those guys. Also, how exciting is it to be on a team that plays about 25 guys on offense and defense every game, 25 different guys. You're talking about wide receiver groups. This is a wide receiver core that they'll play a whole set of 4 receivers, and none of them are the starters just because of a package that they worked in, a package that the coaching staff thinks they earned. Late in the season, you heard a lot about Kobe Bain. Kobe Bain's improving. Guess what? Kobe Bain was getting significant reps. He was getting a whole series at right tackle. So this, to me, is more than just saying, oh, well, these are opportunity for you to develop, to see what you got. Not just that, you're going to be playing on a team that has considered playing 2 deep at every position for a significant amount of reps. So there's an extra carrot in there to say, yeah, it's time to develop, but also, like, look at this, man. Let's be competitive. You want to earn reps. Look at this guy, Kobe Bain. He earned reps. He got an opportunity to play. I think when they played the freshman QB at Texas Tech, Ethan Vasco, I think that was about an earned opportunity. I know that Jason was banged up and ended up not practicing, but if they hadn't felt good about what Ethan was doing in practice, they wouldn't have considered it. Why throw a true freshman into a game? It's not even over. And he came out and acquitted himself pretty well and showed some moxie and showed some toughness. That's rewarding. Like, this is a guy that is going to redshirt. That. There's really no need for him to play, but he's earned the opportunity, so they gave it to him. That is an encouraging thing if you want to be a college football player, because the transfer portal can scare people out of some opportunities that they should probably stick with, and this is a good example of how.
We're talking about, the transfer portal here. A couple guys off the 2 deep, they've lost a little bit of their depth. Not much, which is a huge credit to this program. There's a couple guys that have decided to make the move on the defensive side of the ball. Do you think that there's some young guys that might get a chance to sneak in and maybe get some bowl game experience because of, guys like, Shad Dabney, Eric Gilliard? I mean, Edwin White really wasn't playing much this year, but, do you think that there might be some guys that might be able to sneak in there and play a little bit in the bowl game because of the absences?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody can step in there and play those reps. You look at the Mike linebacker position, it's a position that basically has either been Rich Miller or Eric Gilliard. Maybe there's someone like Keyshawn Brown, the guy that I was excited about early in his career.
Yeah.
Maybe he can get some reps. There's other backers. Cornell Wheeler, the transfer from Michigan, he's not played much. Maybe he can find a way onto the field and get some reps. Maybe they do a little bit more with Lorenzo McCaskill, play him at different positions. That's the beauty of having someone like Rich Miller. He can play all three spots. So you get a chance to mix and match. And I also think the cool thing about the K-State game defensively, even though they competed, they forced turnovers. It wasn't a horrible game, but it wasn't enough. But one of the things that I really liked was I liked what they were doing with Craig Young. It seems like they're still learning him. And when you have a player of his caliber who can cover, and I think Kansas looked at him like, this guy is such a luxury in coverage that this is what we're going to use him at. But what you saw in that K-State game was they used his physical part, his physicality. And man, can he rush the passer. Man, can he be physical in the middle of that football field.
It kind of feels like with Craig Young, he's like if you need a bucket, they're gonna go through him to go try to get a bucket. Like, I love that you brought that up. That was one of the things I kind of noticed a little bit too. It's like, okay, we're gonna let him be Kyron Johnson a couple times a game, right? Yeah. We're gonna let him rush a little bit. He's like genuinely, I think he's my favorite player on the defensive side of the ball for this team. Yes. I have loved watching how they've utilized him and the luxury. You said I think you used the word luxury just now. It's so true. There's no guys that can let them play in base, but be more athletic than most teams in base. Yeah. And there's not a lot of guys that can do the same kind of things he can. I love that flexibility he provides. Like, I know there's some talk about defensive structure and some of the choices that this defensive staff has made, but like I don't care about personnel or some of that, because Craig Young, he makes you multiple on the field at the same time.
Yeah. And that's I don't get way too into the schematics of the defense. In my mind, when I watch the games, boy, do I want to. I want to jump to every conclusion imaginable. In my mind, I'm like, why did they do this? But when you watch the tape, though, it's lack of execution. And it's going to be until they figure out. And it's not something that's happened all season, right? Because they've had games, especially at home, where they've shown up and executed, and no one had any questions about the defense. Nobody had any questions about the personnel. It's more about, can you line up and can you execute? And playing simple gap responsibility defense is a recipe for winning football.
Yes.
When I was at Kansas, I could have called on first and second down. I could have called the defense. When we went against them good on good, all you ever heard was base cover 4, base cover 4, base cover 4, base cover 4. And what does Kansas like to do? Base cover 4. Yep. A little bit of man free, a little bit of 2-man, because they wanted to look different. Maybe some mixed coverages based on the team, but they're a base cover 4 team. And what it does is it allows the collective to shine over the individuals. So you have your guys that are making tackles, but it's not featuring a guy making tackles. He's just a guy that benefits from the play. So I think they want to be a do your job defense, and to do that, you got to tackle. And when they started getting banged up, they struggled to tackle.
I'm glad you went there. The thing that I've talked about a few times on this show is like, look, the early success of this program that you saw, it's proof that this program is going to have a lot of success. But it's also a sign of this program came from, some big struggles in the past, and they're still catching up, and they're still trying to build and develop. And I think the big takeaway for me the second half of the season, didn't win many football games. They won one in the second half of the year. It's just this group developmental is just going to be the strength, athleticism, depth is still just, it's not where it needs to be for sustained through success all the way into November. And I think you saw that more on the defensive side of the ball in the offense. It's not like, obviously, the injury to Jalen Daniels changes some things too, but I think defensively, it's just the bodies some underdeveloped bodies at some positions, and just a lack of depth overall really just kind of started eating at this team a little bit.
Yeah, you saw it in Manhattan. We hadn't seen that version of Lonnie Phelps for 2 months. He just has not been able to be the person that he normally is, because he's dealing with some kind of knee thing. But what you saw was when he had an opportunity, oh my goodness, he's the same person. It's just a matter of health. And because a guy is not out, doesn't mean he's not injured. And, it's not the NFL. You don't get, he's questionable, maybe returns. It's college football. The discretion is to the coaching staff, and they're private with the way they handle injuries. So you're seeing a guy play, but you don't know what's wrong with him. You just know he just doesn't look right. So that's what the beauty of this whole bowl game experience is. And to tie it into something you said earlier about progress and where they are, this is a good opportunity to prove progress. Because if you're a Kansas football player right now, you're saying, look, we lost our quarterback and we got banged up, and that's what happened. We're not making excuses, but that's what happened. Wait till you see us now. Wait till you see a fresh team. Wait till you see returning some of that depth, getting some guys back. Wait till you see continuity and a full game plan to prepare for one opponent. So I think they're pretty excited themselves to prove this is no fluke and we're here to stay.
And I think there's some people that'll use the excuse if Kansas wins this game of, some of the mass exodus from Arkansas, right? But I think that tells you a lot about the program too. Both these teams are 6-6. One has lost a ton of transfers, and the other has held pretty strong. They've held this group intact. It's still early, there's still plenty of time, but I mean, no surprising names exiting, yet to me. I think that's a hallmark of what's going on within this program too, is just the fact that we haven't seen a ton of exits yet.
Yeah, I think the one part about Arkansas, they're losing some pros. That's understandable. Guys want to protect.
Drew Sanders is all right.
Yeah,
he's all right. He's all right.
He's all right. He's pretty good. So those guys want to protect themselves, protect their money. I believe that they should do that.
Sure.
But I think, like you said, the more alarming thing is after Missouri, they fired their strength coach. And so they're not strong enough in the trenches. They're not competing at the level that's expected in the trenches in the SEC. They lost their offensive coordinator. They started to lose some very important pieces, and it makes you wonder, where are they at as a program? Because after last year, they were looking to be the next up-and-coming program, saying, look what we did last year. That was just the beginning. And because of injuries themselves to their quarterback and some other spots, they hit some road bumps. But here they're coming back, and they probably have something to prove too. But I feel like they've got a lot of transition going on in terms of put a new strength staff together. I read an article today where they don't have nutrition staff in place yet. So there's like a lot of missing pieces that they're going to try to fight through. And they can make whatever excuses they want, but this is about Kansas. This is about Kansas football, and it's about them improving, proving and confirming what they were early in the season.
So what position group do you think benefits most from this month of extra practice, opportunity to play a game? What position group do you think benefits the most?
I would say for this team, defensive line, because the biggest difference to me between this year and last year is I tie it to that group. They have incredible depth, and then they had incredible effectiveness. Remember that first 5 or 6 games, it'd be 2 or 3 different guys every game making an impact. It'd be Caleb Sampson, Malcolm Lee, and Lonnie. The next week it'd be Caleb Taylor, Malcolm Lee, and maybe Hayden Hatcher. Or maybe, it's just different guys.
Jeremy.
Zion DeBose, Jeremy Robinson. I didn't even mention the guy
I love that guy.
Out of the group. So it would just be a different trio of guys stepping up and making plays. And it really gave us the strength. Tommy Dunn, DJ Withers. It gave us the strength for those guys to stay fresh and to keep people off of our linebackers. Linebacker is a group that doesn't have as much depth, that didn't have a good, clean bill of health down the stretch. So I think they suffered from the defensive line being down a bit. And I think the whole defense did, because you didn't get that true drop back pressure. I think at one point before the TCU game, on true passing downs, Kansas was top 30 in getting pressures and sacks. And that's without blitzing. So that's just your 4 down guys. That says a lot about where they were at that point of the season. So you can look at what Jalen Daniels had and say, it's all Jalen, but there's a lot of things going on that contributed to some of that unsuccessful play on defense.
How excited are you to go to this bowl game, by the way?
Oh my God, man, I'm so excited. I mean,
you don't have a game to worry about.
Oh my God, I'm off work all week, man. I'm gonna be down in Memphis, and I encourage anyone, if you see me anywhere, come say hi, man. Come tell me about your favorite player. I'll tell you about mine. You guys want to talk about Mitch Bowles from the 90s or something, or Moran Norris or whoever. I just love Kansas football, and it feels like a celebration of Kansas football. I like that the location is so central, to downtown and to Beale Street. It can be a takeover. It's a family reunion, man. There's not going to be Arkansas's 2 hours away. So there's not going to be a lot of people that are flying in to be at Beale Street. They're going to drive because they live close. And there's going to be a lot of alumni that graduated there that live close. So there are going to be people there definitely for the game day, but this is going to be our week. We can run this place, man. We can, show why we're so proud and support them the way that they deserve to be supported. You always look at Kansas basketball when they make these runs, Elite Eight, Final Four, and they paint these towns, man. So I think that's what we need to do. And like I said, you see me anywhere, come say hi.
I can't believe you dropped a Moran Norris.
I got more too, man.
Jose Friday.
Hey,
June Henley, let's go.
Yeah. LT, Levine, all those guys, man. At Baylor, we played Baylor, and I got a chance to meet David Wimbush.
Ooh.
And man, it was like we were like brothers, man. Getting to dab him up, getting to talk to him during the game. So I'm all appreciative of those guys, 90s guys like Guy Howard and Kevin Polian. Defensive end guys, defensive tackle guys. These guys, man, they care about it as much as anybody. And the cool thing about being a Kansas football player is that it always feels like it's just us. When you're playing, it feels like it's just you because everybody makes fun of you. You're constantly being joked about. And the cool part is it's still just us. Backs against the wall, just us. They want to make fun of you. We want to support you. We want to make Memphis a Kansas football town for a week.
I'm happy for those guys of the past getting to see this program back to life.
Absolutely.
Right? I couldn't imagine. It's just like a point of pride for all those guys to see this group on a stage again. You've kind of got a unique story, right? Because you're a Lawrence kid. There's some news today or this week about a Lawrence kid making a commitment flip from Baylor to Kansas. Sounds like Calvin Clemens is heading to Kansas for staying home.
Yeah.
How you stayed home. What can Calvin Clemens expect?
Man, he can expect to ease into the process, to be fully supported because let me tell you, college is hard. Your first year of college is hard. That's without playing football. Just college itself is hard. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have a leg up in terms of having a real, his family support system and to be able to be a part of school and have a bad day and like go home. I remember having bad days where I'm like, man, am I cut out for this? Is this too physical? Am I in good enough shape? And I can go home and like talk to my dad and listen to why he thinks I'm what I could do better and where I'm weak at and where my mind's at. So that support system is awesome. And then beyond that, the town cares about you, constantly cares about you. When I wasn't playing, I was getting a full page article in the Lawrence Journal World, and they're like, you know what, Brandon's just keeping on. There was no update. But it was cool that the city cared, and that's carried over. It's carried over. So many people come up to me and said, man, you gave me your gloves when I was 6, and it made my day. And these kids are in high school and college now. Or, I used to get Facebook messages from people. Now they're grown men, and they're messaging me now like, man, that was awesome, and I was so happy. I saw you play at XYZ. So I think the best part about playing at Kansas is it's forever, especially when you're local. So Calvin Clemens is going to be forever for someone. I have a 7-year-old son. He might want to be, he's running around throwing the football saying up Devin Neal, that's cool. And that's what's cool about being a Lawrence native. That's what's cool about staying home. And that's what's cool about keeping a 4-star player that's going to be big time in a Jayhawk uniform.
Yeah, just how big you think that is for the program, man. Like just to be able to get that kid to stay home and show that progress. There's a lot of talk, right, about Lance Leipold, I think, even mentioned, hey, we've talked to some 23s that said, man, I wish I was a 24 because if that's the case, giving you guys more time to show the progress of the program. Well, they messed around and won a bunch of football games, got College game day here, went to a bowl game. They accelerated that. They showed that. Just getting to see Calvin Clemens, that has to just be a massive win for this program.
Absolutely. That, they've made no mistakes about wanting to recruit local and wanting to have a local presence in the state of Kansas. The state of Kansas, I saw today from Kevin Flaherty, I think they said almost upwards of 30 Division I prospects, which is much different than it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So there are more people. And Kansas football is interesting because, there aren't, and this is no disrespect to the local programs in Kansas, but there aren't programs in place that get people to the peak of their powers. And that's the dangerous part about Kansas versus other states, trying to predict when is this person going to be the best player he can possibly be. For a lot of Kansas kids, they've not seen anything close to their best days because they don't have these full strength staffs. They don't have spring football.
Right.
They don't have full contact practices in the summer. Kansas, they don't have any of that. No spring ball, no contact practices in the summer. No organized practices preseason, even before the first day of school starts. So there's a lot of things about Kansas prospects are just beginning. And I think that's what Kansas recognizes is that it's more important to have a guy that's going to peak, a guy like Jared Casey, who when was taken as a walk-on, hadn't seen anywhere, couldn't have told him this would be his reality if he wouldn't have believed you. And I can say the same for myself. You couldn't have told me I was going to be 2 times all Big 12 when I was 18 or 17 years old. There wasn't people beating down my door, but the best player that I became came later. And that's a lot of what you get with Kansas kids is that their best days are just beginning. And sometimes in these Texases and Georgias and Floridas, they've already reached that. So, no disrespect to those bigger programs, but there's a lot to say about Kansas kids and their process of development.
And there's some pride here. There's some pride with some local kids. They want this opportunity. And you talk a little bit about being under recruited. That's a chip. That's another chip. Yeah. I mean, Jared Casey's a Big 12 football player.
Yes, he is.
Didn't get a ton of opportunities. He's got some of the best hands I've ever seen out of a five. That dude doesn't drop anything.
No,
it's nuts. And so
his blocking in space.
Yeah,
that was one of the things I interviewed him a couple before the Kansas State game, and he talks about blocking as that's the new thing that he's learned. Like blocking is the thing he's developing on. Receiving, he's got that in the bag. He ain't worried about that. He's got the athleticism. He has the hands. He even showed some breakaway speed there on a long touchdown early in that Oklahoma State game. So this guy, he knows what he is and he believes in himself. And that's what you need. You need people that want to be here, that we play at Kansas thing is a real thing. Is that I came to play. I remember Coach Mangino said in an interview, he said, some people come to Kansas to play college football. And Brandon came to play for Kansas. And that's how it is for some of these local kids. They come here to play for this school in this town.
Yeah, and I hope we get more of them,
Yes, sir.
I hope we get more BMACs in this program, man. We just got to keep stacking them. Good things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, they got one. Torrey Lachlan is a BMAC, man. How about that guy? He'll step in and do anything you ask. He'll cover kicks. He'll block. He'll carry it. Love that kid.
BMAC, it's been so much fun getting to talk to you, during this season, and dude, keep crushing it. It's been so great to see you covering KU football. I'm excited for you to get out there and get to see that bowl game. We predicting a Jayhawks win in Memphis?
Of course. What else would we be projected? Man, we're going to project a Jayhawk win. We're going to project a real Jalen Daniels because, boy, did he look like himself again in Manhattan. And everybody's getting their continuity back. Everybody's getting their health back. Man, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to be able to see our team perform like our team at full strength, and we're going to be loud and proud for sure.
That is KU legend Brandon McAnderson. I am Kent Swanson. This has been Booth Review. Thank you to everyone that's listening. We'll catch you later.